And Jarmart Jared Rogers Martin coming to you from our plush Learfield studios on the Main Street in downtown Columbia. The phone number is 800-956-7266. 800-956-7266. You know, things have changed so much. Things have changed so much over the years, and I give a nod to recruiting for a lot of this. Recruiting now keeps us busy throughout the summer. Used to be recruiting was dead after signing day for the most part. Now recruiting keeps you busy through the spring and summer with news and topics. Plus, we had the change of coaches in baseball at South Carolina to keep us busy. But you know what? Today and tomorrow, really, the only two shows left to kill, so to speak, where there's not much going on. Because Monday it's SEC Media Days. A week from today, SEC Media Days will be wrapping up, and USC will have been in on Thursday next week. Will Muschamp and the three Gamecock players. So today and tomorrow, kind of Deadsville, even though today in recruiting, Dorian Gerald committed to Tennessee. I know that's a kick in the chops to the Gamecocks because I think for a lot of his recruiting, they thought they were going to get him, the junior college defensive end. But in recent weeks, you could kind of feel that things were just not the same with him. Like I've always said, you can tell by who takes your call and who doesn't take your call and how happy they are to talk to you about their interest in the particular school that you're asking about. And in his case, he became harder and harder to reach over the past couple of weeks when prior to, when it looked like South Carolina, he was an easy reach and more than happy to talk about the Gamecocks. So he announced a commitment today to the Tennessee Vols, and that's a bit of a setback for South Carolina because, as Will Muschamp has stated publicly repeatedly, he's got to get pass rushers. And I don't know yet if he has players on his defense this year who are pass rushers. He's got some good-looking players inside now coming in this 2018 class with the two junior college commitments that he has. But he missed on Xavier Thomas, pass rusher elite, and now he's missed on this guy who in junior college last year had 12 sacks and has emerged as a big-time pass rushing threat off the edge for an SEC or an ACC-type program, and he's opted to go to Tennessee. So a little bit of a setback there for South Carolina in a week in which they were having some success, having gotten a good running back and a good defensive tackle.
Well, as I said before, talent is not finite. As I said before, when South Carolina was recruiting Jadeveon Clowney, they had a young guy come on campus at Clemson as a tight end, and he morphed into Vic Beasley. So your pass rusher may be on campus and you don't know it yet. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But it's interesting. That was the trade, though, Corn. That was the trade between South Carolina, the player to be named later, Tennessee's top assistant women's coach, Jolette Law, who's a Florence native, comes back to South Carolina. Then you have a Florence native traded to Tennessee.
Yeah, Florence has been really, really big in the sports news here in recent months, as you just alluded to. You look at the incoming USC class and you're thinking, well, maybe there'll be some pass rushers in that group, and that's entirely possible. I mean, they signed Brad Johnson from Pendleton with the idea that he would be a very good pass rusher. Damani Staley, linebacker, coming out of Ridgeview, a very good pass rusher, a lot of sacks by him in high school. Devon Bowen, who was a linebacker, could be a defensive end. He could be a pass rusher. So they've got some guys coming in this 2017 class to augment what they have currently on the team. But as we saw last year, what they had last year was not very good at rushing the quarterback. South Carolina statistically was among the worst in the country at sacking the quarterback. So that's an area they have got to improve in. Maybe it will mean more blitzing with Sky Moore and Bryson Allen Williams in particular. Maybe, like you said, Pro, maybe somebody else is going to emerge. I mean, I think Dante Sawyer is a talented enough guy to beat the offensive guy trying to block him and get to the quarterback. He should be. He came with that kind of reputation out of high school, he should be good enough to get 7, 8 sacks. I mean, look, they took the defensive end last year, Darius English. If you had told me going into last year that Darius English would be among the SEC's top pass rushers with 8 sacks, I think?
9.5.
9.5 sacks. Excuse me. 9.5 sacks. And he came from nothing. So you have to credit the coaches for developing him. And also, of course, he gets credit for his hard work and lifting himself up and making himself into a quality pass rusher.
Yeah.
But now, who's going to pick up the slack from that?
It'll be interesting. But, in fairness to Darius English, I think coaches get caught in this thing, too, of cookie-cutter players. Darius English was a pass rusher, but he couldn't play the run. They tried to put weight on him, and when they put the weight on him, now suddenly he couldn't rush the passer. Then they figured, okay, this guy is a situational guy. Let him carry that light weight he had and rush the passer. And so, if you'd have let him do that from the get-go, maybe he'd have had more sacks through his career. But he got misdiagnosed or defined that they could put weight on his frame and he couldn't carry it.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Live with you tonight here on Sports Talk. Whatever is on your mind, we can, of course, start looking ahead to SEC and ACC media days. And the questions that you want asked of the coaches, share them with us, and we will put them in our back pocket and take them with us and probably not use them, but maybe get you an answer or two somewhere down the road. Talk about where you think South Carolina and Clemson are going to be picked by the media in their respective divisions. We'll tackle that issue tonight as well. In fact, let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines. I feel like taking calls tonight. I feel like taking calls. Dun. Isn't there a song like that? Yes. We go to Cockett in Columbia for our first call. Long time no talk to, Cockett.
Doing all right. How y'all fellas doing? How you doing, Pro?
All right, staying out the heat, Cockett.
I tell you this right here, Pro. I'm gonna be praying for you and your Atlanta Falcons football team. I think that day is probably stood in a coma like the Hillary Clinton supporters. So I don't think y'all got a chance of repeating to the Super Bowl. You had your opportunity. You should have won your first Super Bowl.
Got the youngest defense in NFL, Cockett. We're young and hungry, just like those Bills that went 4 years in a row. I'll go 4 years in a row.
Well,
you better deal with your Dallas Cowboys because I believe that sophomore jinx gonna hit your quarterback.
Let me say this right here to you. I'm not giving my Cowboys any praise about what they did last year. It did surprise a lot of people. I'm more concerned about how they do in a postseason. I don't give a crap how they win all these games. It's what you do in the playoff, and that's something they haven't done well in almost 20 years. So until they get that situation taken care of, just like my Gamecocks, when it comes to hiring these half-price coaches, such as Will Muschamp, I'm gonna still call him a chump until he wins the SEC title, which the old ball coach cannot do. He can recruit good. He's a good defensive coordinator, but you all know, that I can get the Hollywood on the phone, and he agreed with me. He agreed with me on this. Will Muschamp had all the talent in Florida, but couldn't win. So now you come into South Carolina, we probably as lower when it comes to SEC football is the Kentucky.
Did he have? I mean, I know he had great defenses at Florida. They had some issues at quarterback. They also had some issues at offensive coordinator during his time there too. So I don't know if he had all that at Florida, but you're supposed to have all that at Florida. All right, thank you. Back in a moment. 800-956-7266, the number here on Sports Talk. Lines are now open for you once again as we talk about what's happening today. I guess the big news around here was the commitment of Dorian Gerald to Tennessee and not to USC. That's a lot of folks on Twitter are jumping on Will Muschamp, Lance Thompson for not getting that one done. I mean, I don't know what you can do. I'm not, they don't need me to defend them like anything in recruiting. Nothing is absolutes, and you don't know what a kid is going to do. And, the kid said to a Tennessee website after committing that Tennessee just felt like the most comfortable place for him. It felt the most like home to him. He went there on his visit, and he was blown away. Now, if you're South Carolina and you hear that, knowing that you had him on your campus just about 2 or 3 days before he went to Knoxville, what you've got to do is look inside and figure out, okay, what is it that we didn't do or that we don't have that a South Carolina kid who lives 50 minutes from us did not feel as comfortable as he did when he went to Knoxville, especially, if you're a junior college defensive end. The one thing you want is instant playing time when you come out of junior college. You want to be able to go right to the top of the depth chart. And believe me, he could have gone right to the top of the depth chart at South Carolina. I guess he could do that at Tennessee as well. I'm not as familiar with their depth chart. But if you're Will Muschamp, I mean, you got to look internally and ask some questions and find out, why did a guy who grew up in this state, who had no offers when he left high school and went out to junior college and did great last year, had 12 sacks, then all of a sudden he's on everybody's radar and he had big-time offers at the end, but he's still a South Carolina guy. And his family's still in Florence. And he had a good visit to South Carolina, but he had a better one to Tennessee. What you have to figure out is, what did Tennessee do better? I mean, that's how you fix that problem.
Well,
what did Tennessee do better?
They're not in South Carolina.
That should not be a positive for Tennessee.
What I'm trying to say is, some kids, for whatever reason, they have this in the back of their mind, out of state. I may go out of state. Because, see, you can ask the same question of Jemias Williams. Why in the world, you're a Georgia kid, you're on Georgia's campus, you're right there near Atlanta. What does South Carolina have that we don't have here at Georgia?
Well, I think in that case, it was playing time. I think the number one thing with him is he looked at South Carolina's depth chart and the Gamecocks' need in the secondary and saw a place in the SEC where he could waltz right in and at least be the nickelback starting out, if not more than that. So I think in his case, that's what – and, of course, he had developed a very good relationship with his recruiter, and that weighed heavily on his mind as well. But I think the playing opportunity, first and foremost, with all these kids today, it's that opportunity. They don't want to sit as freshmen. They want to play. Unless you're an offensive lineman and you realize that it might take me a year or two to get up to speed at this level, they seem to be more willing to accept a red shirt than anybody else on a football team coming out of high school. And they seem to be the ones that are red-shirted more often, unless there's a physical issue that comes to the forefront. All right, 800-956-7266 is the phone number. We have open lines for you. Your thoughts on that. Also, upcoming SEC, ACC Media Days next week. I think South Carolina, when the voting is all counted up, I think the media will probably put the Gamecocks fourth in the East. I think they'll put Kentucky ahead of them. Yeah, I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the SEC media. Well, look, Kentucky, they beat South Carolina, 2 years in a row now? They've got a good quarterback, too. They got a guy that can sling it. And they kind of feel like they're on the come-up, as the kids like to say. The top three are going to be Florida, Georgia, and probably Tennessee, just out of old habit. With Tennessee third. Florida, Georgia, 2. Tennessee probably third. Oh, wait a minute. That would put the Gamecocks fifth, wouldn't it? Yeah. Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, then South Carolina. And then you're talking Missouri Vanderbilt or Vanderbilt Missouri.
From a psychological,
which is okay.
Yeah,
from a psychological standpoint, if I'm Will Muschamp, pick me fifth. I'd love you to do what you did last year. Pick me for the bottom. And we'll have something to prove. Just like Vandy had something to prove last year and had one of their best years in some time. But yeah, I agree with you. It seems like old hat corn when South Carolina was picked fourth every year when Spurrier was at Florida. They would be number 4. So, but Tennessee, still some questions about what they do at quarterback. That would be interesting to see how that pans. Well, they got to start over at quarterback. I mean, they'd had the luxury of having a veteran quarterback, a very successful quarterback, for a number of years, and now he's gone. So they're going to have to start over. But, here's the thing about SEC media days. The media has seldom gotten it right when it comes to the champion. Let's just go back to, let's say, 2010. The media picked Alabama. Auburn won the championship. 2011, the media picked Alabama. LSU won the championship. 2012, the media picked LSU. Alabama won the championship. 2013, the media picked Alabama. Auburn won the championship. 2014, the media picked Alabama, and Alabama won the championship. In 2015, Auburn was the pick. They finished last in the West.
Yeah.
Alabama won the championship. And then, of course, last year they picked Alabama. I mean, they're going to pick out, Alabama it's so easy to pick Alabama, just Alabama. But it's hard not to pick Alabama, too, when you think about the overall SEC championship. But, I mean, Jarmart, you made a face when I said, well, at first I said mistakenly the Gamecocks fourth. Should have been fifth. You think I'm too hard on the Gamecocks? That's too low for them?
I think it
like
was mostly
higher?
my surprising.
Or is that too optimistic? Am I too
with
optimistic
Kentucky.
about it?
I was mostly surprised that they're flipping. I think you could give them a little bit higher. You could say they're third or fourth, flirting with Tennessee for that third spot. I mean, they did pull that Halloween upset after all.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, Georgia. I mean, just as easy. That's the top 2.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think it's any question. It's just a matter of who's going to be 1, who's going to be 2.
And all of them had their awards.
I predict Georgia will get the pick at number 1. Returning quarterback, the 2 running backs, receivers are good enough. The defense looks outstanding.
Returning defense for starters is going to get them to pick over Florida.
Their only question mark is rebuilding their offensive line. All right, back to the phones we go. And it's Mike in Dillon, a football capital, no doubt. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Phil. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I just got a quick question, changing the subject. Not that I really care that much about it, but I heard something today somewhere where the soccer people has changed the rule, the way the fans are not going to be able to talk or yell or cheer or anything. And if they do, I think they get like 2 warnings, and then they'll suspend the game. I can't remember that was high school I heard, or I'm pretty sure it was. But I just want to get your thought and opinion on that and see if you think that eventually that may sprinkle down to other sports. And I think they said one of the reasons for that was because the fans were heckling the referee so bad that some of them were quitting, and they just, I guess, couldn't take it. I don't know.
Here's a story. Here's a story by Jeff Hartzell. I guess this is what you're talking about. Jeff Hartzell in the Post and Courier. The headline is, Youth Soccer Parents Ordered to Stay Silent in September. And because they've been so nasty, the South Carolina Youth Soccer Association is ordering parents and spectators to be silent at all matches around the state in the month of September. We'll talk about it more in a moment. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266, the phone number. Going back to that story we were talking about as we hit the break, Mike and Dylan was bringing up information about parents, spectators being ordered not to yell or even cheer at upcoming soccer matches. It's not a high school thing. This is a youth soccer thing. South Carolina Youth Soccer Association ordering parents and spectators to be silent at all of its matches around the state in the month of September. This by Jeff Hartzell in the Post and Courier. This initiative is called Silent September. And as he writes, it's causing a stir in state soccer. The new rule says, quote, all parents and visitors shall be silent during the game. End of the quote. This group oversees youth soccer for about 28,000 players and some 55 clubs in South Carolina. The rule continues, no cheering, no jeering. Just enjoy your player and the game that they love. The rule also states that coaches can be sent off the field if they cannot control parents' behavior. Quote, the purpose of the Silent September is to make parents, visitors aware of the SCYSA focus on appropriate sideline behavior and of the existence of a code of conduct, according to their statement. Quote, and reestablish that managing parent-visitor behavior is the responsibility of coaches and clubs, not referees, end quote. Timeout. Can you give me a timeout? This will be a 30-second timeout.
20 seconds.
It's the parents' responsibility, you idiots.
Yes.
Good God. I can't believe what I just read.
It's not the coach's responsibility.
It's the parents' responsibility. Are you telling me that you don't believe that parents should be responsible for their own conduct?
Yes. They're supposed to be setting the example for
the
their
parent-visitor behavior is the responsibility of coaches and clubs.
No,
not referees. Please.
Let me bring back the.
I cannot believe that.
Let me bring back the late Joe Morrison and let him ask him if my job is to quiet the parents. My job is to win football games.
This world has just passed me by. I must be in a counter universe now.
You're in the twilight zone. I'm stuck here with you.
I mean, come on. First of all, this will never work.
No.
Okay. This will never work. This is an idiot statement.
This looks like this
will never work. And then number two,
this is like
you are in the writing of your rule shifting the responsibility away from the people who should be responsible. Uno. Let me talk in soccer language. Uno. As in number one, right? Uno, you get that?
Yes.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Jarmart. You are a soccer aficionado.
I am in complete agreement with you in that it would never work. It's like when you go to graduation and they say, nobody yell or take pictures, and the very first person gets called.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
And if anything, it'll just egg on these people and more. Oh, you're telling me I can't? Well,
yeah,
now
and
I'm just
you know what
bring
you're going
it
to
on.
hear. You know what you're going to hear. It's my First Amendment right to yell. You know you're going to hear that from anybody who is censored. It's my First Amendment right, my friend, to say what I want to say and scream what I want to scream.
But people don't understand that.
I say ban the sport.
Along with that First Amendment
ban the sport and make them all go play real football.
No, along with that right is you suffer the consequences of exercising. You know, people think that means that you can say whatever you mean in any context or any arena. You can't. So you exercise your First Amendment right, and then you suffer the consequences of doing that. People don't understand it. I just can't. My point is, I think this is a way for them. Almost, you think a backdoor way of them wanting to shut down the league anyway.
Yeah,
this is what it sounds like to me. You don't even hear people be completely quiet on a golf course.
I'm just reading more of this. I'm glad Mike called and brought it to our attention. All parents and visitors shall be silent during the game. No cheering, no jeering. Just enjoy your player and the game that they love. Also, during this silent September, all parents and visitors shall be on that half of the parent touchline opposite their team's bench. I have no idea what a touchline is.
And if your cell phone goes off during the game, immediate out.
What's a touchline?
The parent touchline is new to me, and I've never heard of the parent touchline. We had the bleachers, or you sit on your lawn chair.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is good. It sounds like it was written by some people sitting around a table sipping tea at 2 p.m. In the event of a parent or visitor violating this rule, on the first instance during a game, the referee will ask the coach to counsel his parents and visitors to remain silent. Counsel them. On the second instance during the game, the referee will tell the coach to counsel his parents, visitors to remain silent. Upon the third instance during the game, the referee will direct the coach to dismiss. So you get 2 chances to yell and scream before they ask you to leave. If they do not leave or the coach refuses, then the coach will be sent off. If there is not an appropriately carded adult to continue coaching the game will be abandoned and the circumstances reported to the association. Otherwise, if the offending spectator or spectators still refuse to leave, even after the coach is sent off, then the game will be abandoned and the circumstances reported to the association. And then, if that doesn't work, we'll call the National Guard. I just added that part.
No, I was thinking the same thing. I was just about to say, call the National Guard out. Now, here's the other thing.
I'm just going to say, good luck.
They know that's not going to work. This seems to be, I would hope that this is just a way to sarcastically try to get, they can't believe that it's going to work. I'm hopefully just sniffing sarcasm all over this. Hopefully.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like a joke to me, but it just sounds stupid.
I could just see the PA announcer at Death Valley or Williams-Brice Stadium. We want to remind the 8,000 patrons here to please
do not boo the Gamecocks as they run onto the field.
Do not boo. Do not cheer. We don't want to hear any yelling. People who use profane language will be instantaneously be brought to the magistrate.
This is just another case of the sissification of America, but it's also another case of shifting the blame away from the central characters.
The parent.
Absolutely. I mean, just give me a break. Just give me a break. I got to move on to something else. But thank you for that phone call and bringing that to our attention. I was not aware that thing had gone that crazy.
Can I do that? Can I do that at least?
Oh, my goodness. To the PGA Tour, want to jump on this because we've got a local who is among the leaders. This is the Greenbrier Classic. You know, last year this tournament was flooded out in West Virginia. They are playing this up in Greenbrier, West Virginia. Is that the name of the town? This is where they have the underground sanctuary for Congress in case of a nuclear attack. You know what I'm talking about? You looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm just trying to figure out why would they let us know where they're going. Hey, I know you're in here. Let me in.
They're so far underground, I guess you can't get to them. But Ben Martin, the former Clemson star, who has struggled some this season, but now has started to find his game, had a very nice day. He shot a 64, 6 under par. He is 2 shots back of the leader, Sebastian Munoz, who's on 17 at 8 under. Davis Love III is also in at 63, 7 under. We'll give you more of the leaderboard and the locals when we come back. All right, just to wrap up the top of the leaderboard, Greenbrier Classic. It's actually in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, Sam Snead's old stomping grounds, and it's in that area where they've got the hideaway places for the president and members of Congress. I saw that on 60 Minutes one time. Pretty interesting stuff. That's where I get my American history information and current events. So Ben Martin's right there. Some of the other locals and notables, Phil Mickelson had a good day. His first outing with his new caddy after he and Bones separated. 3 under 67. Charleston's Russell Henley, 2 under 68. USC's Mark Anderson, a 68 as well. Bill Haas of Greer, 1 under 69. Clemson's Jonathan Bird, also at 1 under. Bubba Watson, 1 under 69. Two Gloves is back. Two Gloves, Tommy Gainey. Even par 70 for him. Scott Brown, a 70. Kevin Kisner from Aiken, a 72 plus 2. And Clemson's Sam Saunders playing the 18th at 2 over on his round with 1 to go. All right, there you go with that. Back to the phones we go. And it's, it's our buddy. He goes by many names. His family knows him as Oliver. His friends know him as Triple T, but we know him as the ABM, the Angry Black Man. But he's actually not angry today. He's being a good man today. Aren't you, Oliver?
Yes. Yes. Matter of fact, you just introduced us. We was at Play Ball Park in Miami. I'm saying this. Having the open ceremony, I'm saying this. It's something I couldn't dream of, man.
Yeah, you're with a traveling all-star team, baseball team of youngsters from Columbia, correct?
Yeah, it's not a traveling team. It's a rec team from Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
This past year, we decided to go RBI. RBI represent revised baseball in the inner city.
There's a special team.
Major League Baseball has put a lot of money in the inner city trying to get minorities back into baseball. And we got selected. I'm saying this.
Charities, RBI.
You probably hear the noise in the background.
Yep.
So, but like I said, these kids excited. We're excited. We're gonna play 5 games in 3 days. We're gonna play 2 games tomorrow, 2 Saturday, and 1 Sunday.
And you're going for a regional? Is this a regional or a national championship kind of thing?
No, it's a round robin. It's a round robin. You got 8 teams from across the country. So we're playing each other.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And what age group is this?
11 and 12-year-olds.
11 and 12-year-olds. Very good. Are you one of the coaches?
Oh, yes. I am the head coach.
Oh, you are the head coach.
That's right.
Gotcha. Now, what time do you play today?
Now, we don't play that day. Right now, we're at the opening ceremony lasts from 6 until 8. And we go back to the hotel and get ready for in the morning.
Gotcha. Is there anything we can do for you from here at Sports Talk and in the state of South Carolina? What can we do for you?
Well, I'm still raising money for our program, you know what I'm saying? I'm always need money for our program. Because the youth I deal with, a lot of these kids, you know what I'm saying, they can't afford the gloves, they can't afford the baseball shoes.
Mm-hmm.
The city get the uniform, I'm saying, but they don't buy the glove and the shoes, I'm saying this.
Right.
And I'm saying this. So, you know, I'm always raising money. It's called the Columbia Youth Baseball League.
And how can people contribute? Where can they go?
Well, I'll call you and let you know when you promote it for me.
Okay. You do that, I'll put the word out.
Okay, matter of fact, we are just one of 3 RBI teams in Columbia. Last year, we had, this past year, we had over 600 kids in our program, from 3 to 15.
Well, that's fantastic. That is fantastic, yeah. And unlike youth soccer in our state, the spectators are allowed to make noise, yell, boo, cheer, the whole thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Oliver. Listen, good luck to you guys. and get back with me, and I'll put the word out on how folks can contribute to your cause.
The guy who picked up the airport, he's a Clemson fan.
Of course. Of course he is. Of course he is. All right, we'll let you go. A little bit noisy there with the PA. You must be standing right by a speaker.
That's why, well, that's one rule they have, is to tell the PA people to turn the mics down.
And you knew Oliver was going to find a Clemson man as soon as he got to Florida. Probably going to do a little recruiting.
Oh, yeah.
For the Tigers as well. All right, so we'll get you more information on that. But if you want to help out with their trip, as Oliver said, they're still looking for financial support to help pay for the trip. You heard him say some of the kids can't afford the cleats or whatever. And sure would be nice for people to help out and offset some of the costs that they're incurring by this trip. All right. Let's see here. Let's do it. Go ahead and give me my walk-up music here. There you go. Yep. Mm-hmm.
With cleats on.
Feeling good. One more time. A reprise, please.
I said the King's in the building. Tell me how you feeling.
That's a reprise, isn't it? Reprise.
How about Gordon Hayward going to the Celtics?
And they're going to have to unload half the team.
Well, probably going to have to lose some people, but
Lennox, they already renounced.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. He was kind of a disappointment overall. Well, he had one exciting game. That was against the Bullets, where he dominated. Somehow he just dominated the fourth quarter. But other than that, he was an average player for a guy that was a high draft pick. I think. Well, slow. He's slow and he can't jump.
Well, yeah,
and he's not Larry Bird.
But the key point is he's a body that can give you 10 to 15 minutes in a pro game, which you need. So they're going to have to find some backup big men from somewhere. I think if I'm a Celtics fan, the only thing I would not want to get rid of that they have to is Jay Crowder. Because I just think you need one of those junkyard dog players. You know what I'm talking about? And that's what Jay Crowder provides for the Celtics.
That he is. He brings a little bit of buzz with him to the court, a little bit of nasty. All right, little bit of recruiting. Again, Dorian Gerald, the Florence native, who at one time appeared headed to a USC, announced today a commitment to Tennessee. He attends College of the Canyons Junior College in California, developed into one of the top defensive end prospects in the 18 class, rolling up 12 sacks last season. He went from no offers as a high school senior in 15, despite playing in the Touchstone Energy North-South game, to multiple offers this spring. He had a top 5 of USC, Tennessee, Louisville, Florida, and LSU. Made multiple trips to USC since the Gamecocks offered, including one in early June. He followed up that with a visit to Tennessee, and from that point on, the Vols worked their way to the top. His decision, of course, as we talked about earlier, a blow to Will Muschamp, who has repeatedly stated the need for pass rushers on his defense. Kivaris Thomas, quarterback, 6'3", 230, out of Lakeland, Florida, came through a USC camp in June, did not receive an offer, but Kurt Roper and Muschamp continued to keep in touch with him, and he hopes to hear some news from them in a couple of weeks. He said they're supposed to let him know something on an offer like around July 21st. That's the day of the Gamecocks' last camp of the summer. And so maybe they're going to work some people out and make a decision after that. He's been talking to Roper and Muschamp, he said, at least 3 times a week. So they're just having a friendly conversation. Last season, he passed for 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns. He rushed for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. He has offers from Colorado State, FAU, South Florida, Temple, and South Alabama. Temple is his current favorite, but he said a USC offer would change that. He said, I was planning on keeping it a secret, but when they offer him, he says, I think I'm going to wait about a week and then commit. He said that would make South Carolina my school. He also visited FAU this summer, currently has no other visits planned. USC has not invited him back to their camp on July 21st or for the prospect social event the next day. All right, that is it in recruiting for now. Check it out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. Are we out in about 5 seconds? Am I misreading something with the music and the clock? Yep, we'll be back. I'm ready. Shouldn't I be saying I'm ready? You're ready. I'm ready. All right, here we go. Coming down in 3, 2, and 1. Florence native Dorian Gerald will not play for USC in 2018, but he will play against the Gamecocks, the big defensive end out of the College of the Canyons Junior College in California, committed to the Vols on Thursday. This is a big setback for USC. The Gamecocks felt like they were in good position with him throughout the recruiting process, especially since he made a couple of visits to see the Gamecocks, including one last June. Not last June, last month. Crap. Take it again. In 3, 2, 1. USC will not have defensive end Dorian Gerald as part of its defense in 2018. In fact, the Gamecocks will have to figure out how to block him. The standout from the College of the Canyons Junior College in California and a Florence native committed to Tennessee on Thursday over the Gamecocks. This a setback for USC. The Gamecocks felt like they were in good position with him throughout the recruiting process. Gerald is a player who made the North-South game in 2015, but did not have an offer coming out of high school. He had a top 5 here at the end of USC, Tennessee, Louisville, Florida, and LSU. Quarterback Kevaris Thomas of Lakeland, Florida, came through USC's quarterback camps in June. He did not receive an offer from the Gamecocks. He's hopeful of receiving one later on this month. He does have offers from Colorado State, Temple, FAU, South Florida, and South Alabama. A USC offer would lead to a commitment to the Gamecocks. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. That felt really long. We may have to cut some of that. That felt defensive end Dorian Gerald as part of its defense in 2018. In fact, the Gamecocks will have to figure out how to block him. The standout from the College of the Canyons Junior College in California and a Florence native committed to throughout the recruiting process. The North-South game in 2015, but he had a top 5 here at the end of 2015, but did not have an offer coming out of high school. He had a top 5 here at the end of USC. Quarterback Kevaris Thomas of Lakeland, Florida. Kevaris Thomas of Lakeland, Florida, came through USC's quarterback camps in June. He did not receive an offer from the Gamecocks. He's hopeful of receiving one later on this month. He does have offers receiving one later on this month. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports.
Don't stop now. More sports talk is on its way. Listen to the final word in sports all across the state with your host, Phil Kornblut.
We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Thursday nights from Columbia. Thank you for joining us, Phil Kornblut and the Professor. Tom Hayes here, along with Jarmart, Jared Rogers Martin. 800-956-7266, 800-956-7266, the number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. A reminder, tonight we'll do another Sports Talk postgame. I think Jarmart will join me again. Pro makes a hasty retreat from the office as soon as the show is over. So Jarmart will chime in, give you our thoughts on tonight's show. Those of you who prefer the Twitter connection via or over the phone rather than the phone or the normal way of talking to people, you prefer talking with your fingers and not your mouth, and you have a question or a comment, we'll take those.
It was fun last night, though.
It was fun.
Come join us.
We had a nice little reaction from people, about 500 or so views to it. So if you have some questions you want to send to us that way instead of over the air, we'll do a little 5-minute or so sports talk post game.
We also got something else coming up too.
What else we got coming up?
We've got Jeff Cameron with 97.9 FM down in Tallahassee. He does an ESPN show down there.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to tell us about Florida State and what they did in their offseason.
That's coming up at 7:20.
That's next segment.
Yeah. So we look forward to that. You know, there is a gnat flying around my microphone, and it's driving me crazy. There he is.
Well, you see
I got him.
See, a gnat is like
he didn't know what hit him.
A gnat is like a pass rusher, you know.
Yeah.
Once he's gone, he's still there. It's like ghosts floating around you.
Well, he was driving me nuts. So I'm glad I took care of that.
Is that against an SEC violation? No killing on air?
Yeah. It could be. I don't know, but I took care of that nuisance. All right, 800-956-7266 is the number. Back to the golf scene. Ben Martin, we mentioned the good day that he had at the Greenbrier Classic. Only one bogey on the day for him. That was the number 9 hole. Other than that, he was clean and green. I mean, you shoot 64 anywhere. It's a beautiful golf course. Looked like a hot day up there in West Virginia. And he went out early in the day in that first wave and got his 64. Puts him in great shape. Now, Sebastian Munoz has finished up, and he finished up big. 9 under par, 61 for Sebastian Munoz. And that's with a bogey at 13. He came home with 4 straight birdies. That's how you finish around. On the front side, he carded 5 birdies. That's how you put a 61 together right there, ladies and gentlemen. So 61 is your leading score. That's 9 under par. This is a par 70 course. He's 9 under. Davis Love the third is 7 under. Ben Martin, David Lingmerth, Graham DeLay, and Xander Shuffle. They're all at 6 under. Oh, also Nick Taylor is at 6 under. Danny Lee's at 6 under. So you got a bunch of folks there at 6 under par. So with all that being said, here's Ben Martin. Oh, that's right. Doggone it. We'll get to Ben Martin in just a second. I forgot to send it over to Jarmart. Ben Martin leading the way of the South Carolina group playing in this tournament. And I'm hesitating here until I can ship this over to Jarmart and we can hear a few of his comments.
I got a question for Pro, though, while you do.
Okay.
Darius English was picked up by the Falcons. I would have thought he would have stayed just because he was one of those SEC sack leaders. I thought he would have at least made it to training camp. Now, you had said he was kind of a cookie-cutter pass rusher. Is that why you think he got cut so early last week?
No room at the end.
No?
Yeah. I mean, the Falcons are going to have to cut at least 2 or 3 more defensive linemen for us all over. So that's why he's gone. There's just no room at the end.
And with that bit of filler, now we can get to the interview with Ben Martin after he shot his 64 today. He was interviewed on PGA Tour Radio. Here it is.
You gave yourself a lot of opportunities for birdies out there. You only missed 2 greens the whole day.
Yeah, it was solid all the way around. Got off to a good start, birdie in the first hole. And then only slip up was there on number 9. Didn't get up and down, but would have liked to have the one on the last to cap it off. But, I mean, solid day overall for sure.
You got 54 holes left to make up for that miss on your final hole. Birdie both the par 5s.
Yeah, it would have been no 5s on the card if it wasn't for that bogey on 9. So there's only 2 par 5s here. Really need to take advantage of those. And then I think if you're hitting it in the fairway, a lot of wedges, a lot of short irons in. So with the rain that we got yesterday, the course, you can really get it this morning.
Were the fairways playing wider or were the greens more receptive?
Yeah, I haven't been here in 3 years, but it seems like the fairways are wider since the redo. And then with the wet, the ball's just kind of stopping where it lands. So, yeah, it was out there this morning for sure.
Tie for 5th at Quicken Loans National. Did you find something that you were able to bring down the highway with you?
Yeah, I've made, I think, the last couple of months, played a lot of the weekends and just making steady progress. I haven't really finished one off until last week. So shooting 5 under last week on Sunday and finishing on 18 with a birdie, I think gave me a lot of confidence kind of rolling into this week.
127 in FedEx Cup standing. Did you know where you stand? Is that on your mind at all?
Yeah, I mean, that week last week for me was huge because I think I went from 145 or so to right around the 125. So I got off to a bad start this year, but been going in the right direction. So looking to keep moving up that board.
Well, if he keeps it going like he did today, he will move up. In fact, he was as far down in the FedEx standings as 169. And the last month or so, he's made his way to 127. And, with August rolling around, the playoffs around the corner, it's the top 125 who make it to the playoffs. So he's right there knocking on the door, in a good showing today by Ben Martin out of Greenwood. Good friend of our number 2 producer, our backup producer, Pat Daniel. And Ben Martin, good buddies from their days at Clemson. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, a couple of other notes I wanted to pass along to you here while we have time, and then we're going to get into some Florida State football. Sammy Esposito, according to John Whittle, the big Spur, Sammy Esposito, former USC assistant baseball coach, has accepted a position on the staff at Wichita State for 5th-year head coach Todd Butler. Esposito had been at USC since 2007. He was not retained by the Gamecocks' new coach, Mark Kingston. By the way, on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, our poll question of the week is: the hiring of Kingston by USC was A, a home run, B, a double, C, a strikeout. The feelings of the fans, remember when his name was coming up and there was talk of him getting the job, not everybody, a lot of people were outspoken, they were opposed to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now 51%, make that 52%, say it was a home run hire. 32% say it was a double, and 16% say it was a strikeout. You still have time to vote if you haven't voted yet to share your feelings that way. But it appears that if this poll speaks for the majority of USC fans,
mm-hmm.
they are like fans everywhere. They might grumble about something, but eventually when it's done and when you got your guy, you're going to rally behind him and hope for the best.
I think those 16% voted illegally.
How so? They weren't properly registered?
Yeah, they weren't properly.
The Russians changed their vote? I mean, what they did? Weren't properly vetted. All right, what else do we have for you? The Palmetto Series. For the 2nd year in a row, it goes to USC. And it was their brains, not their brawn, that made the difference. The 2 schools, USC and Clemson, competing in the certified SC-grown Palmetto Series. They split the athletic competitions, but USC got the point for the academics, and thus USC won the series. USC earned points in women's soccer, volleyball, golf, basketball, diving, men's and women's tennis, and the academic point. Clemson got points in men's soccer, football, basketball, baseball, golf, and women's cross country, and the food drive as well. Be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk with a major thunderstorm brewing outside our windows here in downtown Columbia. They were having a little festivity outside called First Thursday, I think. Is that what they call it? Yeah, First Thursday. I think it's over because it's cracking out there like there are bombs going off outside. So nasty, nasty weather overhead in Columbia. Let's see here. We are attempting to get Jeff Cameron on to talk Florida State, and Jarmart's in the process of getting that done. In the meantime, we will continue with some other things while we work on getting that situation cleared up. And a couple of other notes of interest. We talked about the Palmetto series. Let's see here. Dawn Staley is losing one of her behind-the-scenes people, Melanie Bonkum, who was at USC women's basketball for 1 year as the director of offensive analytics.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been hired as the associate head coach at Texas Tech. She's the former Vanderbilt head coach. She's been around a long time, 23 seasons as a college head coach. So, and she's pretty good. She's got a good record. And she won 3 SEC tournament championships at Vandy, 4 NCAA Sweet 16 appearances. So she came to USC, I guess, after getting bumped out of Vanderbilt, worked behind the scenes, is now going to sit back on the bench and make some decisions along with the head coach at Candy Whitaker. Former USC Upstate basketball star Torrey Craig picked up by the Denver Nuggets to play for their NBA Summer League team in Las Vegas beginning tomorrow. He's been playing down under the Australian National Basketball League, earned all NBL second team and NBL best defensive player honors playing for the Brisbane Bullets down under.
Okay.
I wonder if the ball rotates differently.
No.
Because you're upside down, you're on top of your everything, you're hanging down the other way compared to, they say the toilets flush the other way, down under.
I've heard that both ways. I've heard it does that, and I've heard people say, no, that's a myth. So I don't know. I've never been down there.
Yeah, I haven't either. Let's see. Oh, we good? Have we got Sir Jeff with us now? Okay. Well, we don't have him on the air yet, but we're making contact. We're going to talk a little Florida State football, get Jeff's take. Florida State, they got a rugged opening month of the season to deal with. They survive the first month. They're going to be in great shape. Alabama and Atlanta. Then after ULM, they get Miami at home, NC State at home. Then they go to Wake Forest. So they've got a chance to really make a statement in the month of September as we welcome into Sports Talk Jeff Cameron from ESPN Radio 97.9 FM in Tallahassee, who obviously covers the Noles every day. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Good to be on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And, I got to believe the optimism is very high in Tallahassee as we approach ACC Media Days and the start of practice. Got to feel like Florida State thinks Clemson's time is over. It's FSU time again.
Well, I think certainly Florida State fans are elated to see Deshaun Watson leave, as he was obviously truly special. And you go back and look at that Florida State Clemson game from a year ago; it was spectacular. But in the fourth quarter, he made all of the plays. And that's what special players do. And yeah, I think certainly Florida State fans feel like it's their chance to get back on top of the division and play for the conference title and make a run at the college football playoff.
Well, you return a bunch. I say the Seminoles return a bunch of starters, especially almost the entire defense, and there's enough returning on offense. I guess you feel good. The Seminoles feel good about Francois at quarterback. He survived a beating last year, and he'll grow from that. But what about the running game and the running back situation after losing the great running back down there and Dalvin Cook? Who stands to step into that spot?
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's actually a focal point. A lot of people talking about this for a variety of reasons. Obviously, when you lose a talent like Dalvin Cook, people always wonder how it is you're going to be able to replace that. They've got plenty of experience and a lot of depth at the position. Jaquez Patrick comes back. He's a junior, more of a bruising back, about 230 pounds. But he is, oddly enough, for that size, pretty elusive in space as well. But he's not a home run hitter, and Dalvin Cook was certainly that. He could change the scoreboard numbers quickly, and Patrick's not going to do that for you. Their hope is that Cam Akers, the five-star freshman that came in, was an early enrollee, I should say, and is the guy that, really frankly, everybody was watching around the country as to where he would commit, because this is a special player, and I think a lot of people are excited to see if he can come in and contribute right away. And behind that, they've got a guy in the Ira Sewell who didn't play a lot last year. He was really talented and has a ton of speed, but he was hurt a lot, so still burning down on him. And then behind that, there's Ryan Green. He's a senior running back. He's serviceable. He's not great, but he's serviceable. So they've got options, and they've got talent. And if Cam Akers is able to come in as more of an explosive back, I think you'll see the tandem of Patrick and Akers for the most part.
What about Francois now? What are they What'd you see of him in the spring? What have they worked on him with worked with him on to improve him as a quarterback? I mean, he did a great job as a redshirt freshman last year. Certainly learned a lot of things. He's got the experience now behind him. So, what do they foresee in a quarterback in Francois?
Well, I think DeAndre certainly went a long way in winning over his teammates a year ago. You alluded to it at the top here, where he just took a beating, and part of that was problems with the offensive line, but part of that was DeAndre Francois needing to learn that you got to get the ball out of your hands. He tended to hold on to the ball too long, partly because he trusts himself an awful lot, and also he's willing to take punishment. But he's not a big guy. And for him to take those kinds of shots repeatedly a year ago, I don't think he could survive another season like that. So they need him to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. But that tends to happen as you grow more comfortable in the offense. And then the other part of it is for Francois, while he did a lot of things very, very well, his one weakness was too often he was a little shaky on throws that you just have to make. The throws, the simple throws, are ones that he sometimes missed and put his offense behind the chains. And when you're behind the chains and you come out the box playing Alabama and teams like that on defense, you're in a low leverage situation. That's when you're going to get yourself hit. So then you have to take a step forward in the accuracy department on some of those simpler mid-range throws.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You look at Florida State, and boy, that Louisville game last year, just one you flush. I don't think you even look at the game tape. But then inexplicably, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks later, that game where it looked like you may had North Carolina beaten and the Tar Heels. How much starts did that game? Not so much the Louisville game, but the North Carolina game where North Carolina came from behind in the final seconds to win that game.
Yeah, I tell you, you're talking about another focal point for both these coaches. I think the coaches and fan base. A lot of people looking at Charles Kelly because they frankly played poor defense against Ole Miss. Where you couldn't find guys. If you're watching that game on television, there were guys on your screen with some of those receivers catching passes. And obviously Louisville handed an embarrassment for the ages. And then, like you said, the North Carolina game, you come back to take the lead in the fourth at home. North Carolina basically ran the same double pass off to the left side over and over again and engaged Florida State. And so a lot of people wondered about Charles Kelly's ability to translate his knowledge of the game onto the players and their ability to execute. Derwin James was, of course, out, and that hurt an awful lot. And he's back this year and one of the premier defenders in the country. A lot of people believe he'll make a huge difference. But the second half of the season, I do think they answered a lot of questions on defense. They played well defensively for the most part against Clemson. They played well, obviously, in the second half of the season, just all the way through. You didn't see any of those games where you had assignments blown consistently and lopsided numbers on the scoreboard. So a lot of people want to believe that that's a sign that they grew up a little bit and figured some things out.
Hey, Jeff, hang on 1 second, please. If you don't mind, we'll come back to you in a moment. Talking with Jeff Cameron from down in Tallahassee about those Seminoles. Back with more in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. From downtown Columbia, Phil Kornblut, the professor, Tom Hayes, and Jared Rogers Martin. Also visiting with Jeff Cameron from ESPN Radio 97.9 in Tallahassee. Listen to Jeff and his buddies when I'm down that way for football games and the like. And, boy, things start off big for Florida State. No bigger, really, unless you're playing Clemson, I guess, than playing Alabama to open the season in the Mercedes Dome. That's going to be neat to walk into that building for the first time, but it'll be all business. And for both of these teams, I mean, the winner has really got a quick start on the field in the chase for the national championship in terms of a quality win and what it's going to mean in terms of the ratings and all that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Obviously, it's ambitious to schedule an Alabama team like that to start the season, but it does give you an opportunity to kind of see where you're at and gauge yourself against other elite competition. And if you lose the game, you're not necessarily out of it. Obviously, you can't really get blown out, but if you're right there, I think either team, if they lose this game, is in a position still with the schedule that remains to get back in the hunt to get into the college football playoffs. So Florida State, obviously very excited about this game. The fans are really excited about this game, not just because it's Alabama, but as you described, first time in a brand new stadium. This really kind of christens that stadium, and I know a lot of people will be heading on the road to Atlanta for that game.
Yeah, that's just going to be a matchup of talent on talent. Back to Jacques Patrick, he was an all-everything coming out of high school, and last year only 61 carries for him. Simply the case with him that he was behind a great player in Cook who was going to get the majority of the work, or was he working through some injury situations as well?
Yeah, I really do believe – I used to probe that question with Jimbo Fisher a lot because Jacques showed a lot of ability when he had the opportunity, but it's been infrequent, as you noted. And I do think it's just that Dalvin Cook was a special player, and Jimbo always would talk about the explosiveness that Dalvin brought to the table. I think you look at last year's team, there weren't other players on the field that had developed yet. Naquan Murray's a difference maker, we think now, but he developed really late at the end of the year and became more consistent and explosive in that way. But they didn't have a guy that could change the game, make a guy miss and go 80 yards. Patrick isn't that guy either. He's more of a steady, wear you down, 20 to 25 carry guy. Dalvin Cook could make a guy miss in the hole, break a tackle, and be gone. And I don't think Jimbo wanted to pull him off the field. And so I really do think it was more just about the fact that he was behind a real special player.
All right. And on defense, of course, Marcus Walker, 16 sacks last year. Where will the sack production come from? Is it going to be by committee, or is there an individual ready to step in there and pick up the slack when it comes to sacks?
Well, this will be a money year for Josh Sweat. And they've been waiting on him to show more consistency. He's got all the talent in the world. The knock on him is that he occasionally takes plays off. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy now they're going to need him to really step up. Brian Burns is a kid that really opened eyes as a freshman a year ago, got in there and nearly approached double-digit sacks as well. Florida State had little trouble getting to the quarterback last year. Those two guys will be counted upon. And then they bring in another stud in Josh Kando. It'll be interesting to see if he gets on the field as a freshman. But also Derwin James is the guy. They'll move up towards the line of scrimmage and get after the passer as well. He's kind of a do-it-all defender in that hybrid role. He's kind of a guy that, they'll play him at money. They'll play him at star. He can line up at corner. He can line up at defensive end. He can do so many things. So I think Derwin James is another guy they'll count on to try to get to the quarterback as well.
Yeah, 51 sacks. 51 sacks. By Florida State last year. That's amazing. And most of that coming from your defensive ends, your defensive front, which leads me to my question. How much do the people in Tallahassee and the Florida State fans love Brad Lawing as the defensive ends coach?
Well, they love him a lot, and he made an instant impact his very first year. And certainly you look at, when you're talking about trying to count on guys to develop and have big years in the absence of DeMarcus Walker. I mentioned Josh Sweat. Well, Brad Lawing loves Josh Sweat, and he's told everybody who would listen, the kid's going to be special at some point. And I think the fans certainly have a lot of reason to trust Brad Lawing. You look at his track record and all that he's done, some great players he's coached. It's self-evident. So a lot of people like him a lot. They think it was a great hire, and they're expecting big things out of that group this year. That segment's very talented. He's got a lot to work with this year.
So is the mindset at Florida State, you went 10-3 last year. They won their bowl game in exciting fashion over Michigan, 10-3, but no playoff, no championship and all that. So pretty much a disappointing year in Tallahassee when you win 10 but you don't win the trophy?
I think so. I think it's hard for Florida State fans to certainly reconcile the idea that they were a third-place team in their own division.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Louisville handed them their head and supplanted Florida State, at least for a season, as the second-best team in the ACC. And I think that was hard for Florida State fans to reconcile and certainly not accept. Now, on the other hand, as you point out, you win 10 games, you win the Orange Bowl, you beat Michigan, you swept your rivals, you beat Miami again for the 7th consecutive year, you beat Florida, whom you've now beaten 5 out of the last 6. So there's a lot of successes to point to, and yet at the same time, you don't win the Atlantic Division. You watch a rival within the ACC and Clemson win the national title. And, yeah, obviously that means you don't play for the ACC title either. So those are things that Florida State fans obviously have come to expect with the way that Jimbo recruits and the investment in football in Tallahassee. It's expected that you certainly can compete in your own division. And the fact that Florida State was, you know, not just second fiddle but third fiddle, really, I think that probably sat with people the wrong way, and they're expecting a much better season this year.
All right, so from where you sit, looking at the ACC Atlantic, knowing that you've got Louisville coming to Tallahassee, but Clemson will be waiting for Florida State in November in Death Valley, but things could be pretty much settled by then. We'll have to wait and see. How do you see the Atlantic Division playing out from where you sit?
I think it comes down to Florida State's offensive line. They've got talent at receiver, talent at running back, talent at quarterback. They're loaded on defense. I would think that Florida State is the odds-on favorite to win the Atlantic Division and play for an ACC title. Clemson on the road is going to be very difficult, and certainly Clemson will view themselves as defending champions and leaders of the ACC. I do think Florida State feels like, obviously, not having to deal with Deshaun Watson would be quite the help. And they have a kid at quarterback who they trust. And they think that defense certainly is going to travel. So that may very well be a pivotal game. But like you said, Louisville comes to Tallahassee. A lot of people excited about that game. But I think from where I sit, I would pick Florida State to win the ACC. Not just that I cover them every day, but I actually do think they're talented enough and deep enough at key positions. If the offensive line can find some consistency, they're going to start a kid at left tackle this year, we think, that has never played a college football game, and boy, will it be eye-opening for him to have to go out there against Alabama in his first ever college football game. But the talent is there. This is part of an offensive line class from a couple of years ago that was so highly regarded. People have been waiting for them to kind of step up, gain strength, gain experience, and come into their own. This would be the year for that to happen.
So your ACC preseason ballot would be quickly, you'd have Florida State 1. Who would you have 2?
Well, if you're just asking me who I think the second best team in the ACC is, I would lean towards Clemson.
Okay.
But obviously, if I got to go to the other side of the conference and look at the Coastal, I've got Miami coming out of the Coastal. And so, I think this is a year where Miami's defense will be very good. We'll see what they get at quarterback. But the strength of the ACC is obviously the Atlantic Division between Florida State, Clemson, and Louisville. All three very good football teams. You got the returning Heisman Trophy winner at Louisville, so it's hard to overlook them. But they lost a lot at Louisville, and I actually think they'll take a bit of a step back. But I think Florida State and Clemson are the best 2 teams in the ACC, but they're in the same division, and I got Florida State winning the Atlantic.
Yeah. Jeff, we thank you so much. Great stuff, man, and have a great rest of your week. And I think Jarmart will be in will you be in Charlotte next week?
I will be. I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to meet up with you guys. It's been my pleasure.
Hey, thank you. And, I'll be at the SEC. Jared will be there at the ACC. He'll run you down. But we thank you so much for being with us. Have a great rest of the week.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jeff Cameron from 97.9 FM, ESPN Radio, Tallahassee. Good stuff on the Seminoles. We'll talk more about that when we come back from the break. Could it be a Florida State-Clemson showdown in the Valley in November for the division? We'll talk about it. So Florida State, with a very good defense returning, a quarterback, always good receivers, talent at running back with Akers, the freshman, coming in January, and then you've got Patrick, so highly touted. I mean, their running game should be in good hands. He mentioned a starter at left tackle, I think he said. Was it left tackle? He'll be starting for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a little bit of a concern there. But, well, you'll learn a lot about really Florida State and Alabama that first game. Well, you'll see a lot of their pluses and their minuses, and we'll go from there. While, some teams will be coasting into the season. No coasting for those two teams when they face off. That will be a national championship type atmosphere.
Well,
and the good thing for both is this, fans are like, yeah, you got to go undefeated. No, hardly anybody goes undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's outside the league. It's the first game of the season. If you lose, especially a close one, you're not going to fall that far. You still take care of your business in your other games. Now, the pressure will be on you not to lose another game because 2 losses would, especially if you lost one, well, anytime after you lose that opener, if you lose another game, whether it's in the league or outside the league, that's going to severely damage your chances of getting to the postseason. So that's where the pressure comes from. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you're going to be out of it by any means. And,
no.
And the sad thing is, too, when this whole playoff thing came about a few years ago, I talked about it right here. How are people going to react when you have a good season? I mean, 10-3. I mean, 15 years ago, who wouldn't sign up for 10-3? I mean, everybody would for the most part. But now 10-3, it's not good enough. It doesn't get you into the playoffs. It doesn't get you to the national championship. It's like everything else you did was for naught. And that's kind of how college football's thinking has changed. The fans' thinking have changed here in the last 15 years or so.
It really does depend, though, in this light. If you're 10-3 and 2 of your losses are against good teams out of your league, but you win your league, which, say, for instance, is a strong league, you may still get into that 4th position. You can get into that 4th position still, in my opinion. But it will be interesting to see. A lot of times I know people like to say, hey, I like to watch good football. But for whatever reason, Corn, I think what left a bad taste in my mouth was years ago when everybody pumped up Miami and Florida State as the opening game that year. This is about, I guess, 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they stunk up the joint because they looked like 2 teams that were playing their first game. And so some part of me says, oh, this is great. New stadium, Alabama and Florida State. Yeah, but yet and still, this still is the first game for both teams. Let's see who can shake off the doldrums and get their act together right off the bat. But the interesting thing you want to look at right off the bat, if you're looking for competition, is what will Florida State's defensive line look like trying to chase around Jalen Hurts? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like he's going to be a statue standing back there to get ready to get sacked.
Well, but you know what? I think he's going to be more of a statue than he has been to some degree. I think Alabama, I mean, they're not going to take away his legs because that's an important part of what he can do and how he can hurt an offense. But they want him, from what I have read in the offseason, and what they worked on in the spring, they want him to be in the pocket. They want him to try and complete those passes that maybe last year he kind of tucked it and took off and ran. Well, look, with the offensive line Alabama puts out in front of you, the protection they give you, there's no reason not to sit back there and let a play develop. And if it doesn't work with him, I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year and he's going to hold them back, but they've got that hotshot quarterback from Hawaii as a freshman coming in who's supposed to be something extra special too. Mm-hmm. Is he from Hawaii or just from California? I think he's from Hawaii.
Hawaii, but yeah.
And I won't even attempt to pronounce his name.
Well, see, this guy is special, though, because, I mean, for you to walk into Alabama as a true freshman, but then again, the key is temperament, because here we go again, a coach's son. So they have somewhat of a temperament and know what football is about that other players may not. They seem to have ice water running through their veins, and I guess they get it from their dads or sitting there talking football. But he never seem to get rattled in a football game. Now, if you ask him to win the football game last year, I don't think he could have. It was Alabama's defense that let them stay in the games till he made one of those big plays with his legs.
Well, I remember that touchdown drive against Clemson in the national championship game. After Clemson had taken the lead, Alabama gets the football, and there was the throw to the tight end, I think, got it down to about the 30-yard line, and then he takes off on a keeper right up the middle. No one on Clemson's defense could touch him. He just sort of danced into the end zone. That's what he can do. That's the danger that he brings to the field. But I think that you also saw him at times in that Clemson game. I have to go back and look at the numbers. You also saw him rattled at times in that Clemson game. The Clemson defense got to him some in that national championship game, and he had some poor throws. I think he made a few poor decisions in terms of when to escape the pocket and when to try and throw the football. Let's see. In that game against the Tigers, he was only 13 of 31. He was a little bit exposed in that game as a passer. He was 13 of 31, only 131 yards. He did rush for 63 yards and that 30-yard touchdown. But he was exposed some as a passer under pressure.
Well, let's put it this way. Clemson exposed a lot of passes. So with that defense, you would say, okay, fine. But the biggest mistake he could have made in that football game is to bust up the middle against Clemson and take a knee at the 5 so they could run off that extra time on the clock.
You know, that's an excellent point. I mean, you're not thinking that, and we see this a lot, but you're right. I mean, but there's no guarantee you're going to score.
Exactly.
I mean, can you imagine what Saban would have done if he had done that? I mean, how would he have reacted? Would he have said, great play, man, that was super, now let's go out there and get the touchdown?
But you make it look like an accident. You make it look like your spikes got caught and you fell out.
I don't know, man. That's a good point, but they did leave Clemson
too much time. 2 minutes and I'm just looking back here. When do Clemson fans shelve the national championship game? You don't, because I don't think
you have to.
Well,
you have to.
The reason I say
the coaches have to shelve it, the returning players have to shelve it, or they're going to get their clocks cleaned.
Yeah,
you can't play 2016. You can't play 2017 like it's 2016.
But we're talking about the fans, because I thought
the fans can't sit out there like it's 2016.
I thought the Clemson fans cheered, but I swear, Clemson carried that national championship that Danny Ford had for at least 10 years.
Well, it helped him in recruiting.
No, but I'm talking about the fans.
Right.
It's almost
they lived off.
It's almost like it kept them warm at night. You know, when
511 yards Clemson had against that defense. The two national championship games by Clemson's offense against that defense were something that should be used to teach offense everywhere. I mean, everywhere. To do what they did against that defense that Alabama rolled out there?
Now, here's the interesting thing. You talk about that, because the two quarterbacks who at times made Alabama's defense look ordinary is Deshaun Watson and the guy who left town,
Chad Kelly.
And Chad Kelly with the Ole Miss.
And the other thing is the guy who blitzed the Alabama secondary for 4 touchdown catches, including 10 catches in January, had no Division I offers coming out of high school.
That is correct, sir.
Go figure. That'll do it. For you Twitterites, we'll be coming to you on Twitter for Sports Talk postgame in about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll spend about 5 minutes with you there. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow night.